So I found myself in Salt Lake City in 2004, and I had all of this material and all of this mindset on how to convert every Mormon that I ran in contact with. And I continued to do that. I would bring up arguments, disagreements wherever I could with whomever I could. But there was one thing missing, like I said in my last episode, and I couldn't figure it out. But I'm going to tell you what that one ingredient missing was in a few minutes that actually hooked me into the faith. I'm going to tell you that in a few minutes. So here I was in Salt Lake City. Now I had a wife with me, I had a small child. At that time, we had a baby in Salt Lake City. Now I'm in my 50s and now I've got a little baby to take care of. My life is in shambles. I'm an alcoholic, a drug addict, and without any type of plan. So I find myself there, and I was working out of a temporary agency, and I started working for a returned missionary. I will give his name, Andy, and that's his true name. I won't say his last name, but I started working with Andy. And there was something about Andy and we just clicked. He said that we probably knew each other in the pre-mortal world. Now, the pre-mortal world is what the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints members believe is that's where we existed before we came to the earth and took on a body. But that's another video in itself. But anyway, we liked each other. He was my supervisor. He was the superintendent of a construction company. And at about 25, 26 years of age, I'll say, he always hid his age because he was younger than all of the laborers. So he would never tell us his age, but we knew he was younger. But anyway, Andy started picking me up. I had lost my car at the time. I didn't have a vehicle. So he started picking me up, taking me to work. And we would converse most of the time about religion, about God. He would tell me about the Mormons. I would contradict him, of course, with my stuff and my knowledge of the Bible. And I would really contradict him. And he, we would get into it. But there was that one thing that I couldn't put my finger on that made the Mormons different than most Christians that I knew, most so-called mainstream Christians. They were different, and I could not put my finger on it. But I will tell you that in Salt Lake, this is what I felt in my spirit. I felt a peace about that city. The people were the most friendliest people I have ever met, willing to help you. They also had welfare plans for people who were homeless. They had the bishop's warehouse where you could go and get an order for food if you didn't have any food. They would even pay your rent for a week, and you did not have to be a member of the church. So I just saw all of this, and I saw how nice the people were. They were great people. They went home after work. They stayed with their family. They went to church on Sundays. They didn't participate in all of the other stuff that was going on. I'll just call it stuff. They didn't participate that in the workplace or in the streets. Now, I'm not saying all of them were perfect. There were some, they call themselves Jack Mormons because they don't actually adhere to the word of wisdom, so to speak. So they do a little drinking, they smoke, and they do other things, but they still have that ground in them, that foundation that the faith has taught them, and you can see the difference in them. And Salt Lake City at that time was like about 75% Mormon, but the place felt different. The atmosphere felt different. There was so much opportunity there. I could not believe it. But what I found out that I could not put my finger on was what attracted me so much to them. Now, I'll tell you what that thing was, and I'll tell you how it progressed. Andy and I were riding to work one day, as usual. I would watch him all the time. He never passed a hitchhiker on the road or a flat tire or people in the snow over in the bank. He always would stop and we would pick them up and pull them out of the road. We were on our way to work. He was the superintendent, so I was okay. I was riding with him. I was on the clock. But anyway, I would watch him from time to time, and I saw that this was his foundation. And I started to see the goodness in him, and I started to notice the goodness around all the other people. And I'll tell you one thing, folks, those of you who don't know, those are the most happiest people I have ever met. And I've been some places. And I've seen some people and talked to people, as many of you have. But they are happy for the most part. But anyway, Andy and I were talking, and we were talking about the Bible, and I was arguing about him and arguing against or for the Bible against the Book of Mormon. And out of nowhere, a revelation hit me. And that revelation came out of the book of James. It was like a voice talking to my heart that said, faith without works is dead. So I thought about that for a minute. And so the scripture popped in my head. I had read it so many times before. Let me read it to you right now. In James chapter 2, verse 14, it says, what doth it profit, my brethren, though a man say he hath faith and have no works? Can faith save him? It says in verse 15, if a brother or sister be naked and destitute of daily food, and one of you, we're talking about Christians now, say unto them, depart in peace, be ye warmed and filled, notwithstanding you give them not those things which are needful to the body. What doth it profit? And here's the killer verse. Verse 17 says, even so, if it hath, even so faith, if it hath not works, is dead, being alone. Now, I want all you Christians out there to listen to this. This hit me hard. If I was such a Christian and I talked such a good fight and I claimed I had so much faith, where was my works? Where could I show? It goes on in that chapter to challenge them. That it says, show me your faith without your works, and I will show you my faith by my works. And that was the thing that I found that was missing. They were showing their faith by their works. They were putting their money where their mouth is. They were backing it up. They were helping the poor. They were feeding the hungry. They were helping those that were down on the feet get back up on their feet. They helped their people. They preached faith and their progress. The crime rate in the city was low. People said hello. You could not go any place without people greeting you with a smile. They are some of the most friendly people there is, except for my home state, West Virginia, Salt Lake City, Utah. The whole state of Utah, you're the best. But anyway, I regress. Let me get back to this. So that came to mind that these people were showing their faith. They were doing something that the Christian churches were not doing. And let me tell you this right now. I went to some of the churches down there, the Christian churches, and they spent most of their whole sermon on talking about how bad the church was, how they followed the wrong doctrine, how they worshiped the devil, how it was a cult. They would spend their whole sermon talking about this, and I would listen to that, and I would. This verse was always playing in the back of my mind. But however, if you went to that same pastor and told him your lights were cut off, your baby needed lights, or your baby needed food, they would refer you to the church, to their welfare system. Now, something was wrong with that picture, and that bothered me. So that was what I saw. That was something they had. These people had happiness, and they had the means to back up what they say. As far as I could see, they were spending their tithe money on their people and on their faith. So that hit me hard. I didn't say anything to him at the time, but I went home and I thought about that. I think I probably read the verse over again in my mind. I mean, in the Bible, and I played about this with my mind. This went on for 2 or 3 days. So my arguing got a little bit lower with him. And we started talking more on a congenial basis about the scripture. So I started asking him questions. See, before I wasn't asking questions, I was just giving answers to questions that weren't even asked. But so I started asking him questions about it, and he told me one day, he said, I wish I knew the Bible like you did. And that way I could talk to you better. And so the thought came to me, I wish I knew the Book of Mormon like he did. Then I could convince him even more. But I was starting to have a little doubt in my mind that something was wrong with my faith. But anyway, he brought me a Book of Mormon, and he turned to a page that it said, read this book and then pray about it. This is the kicker. Now, I want you, all of you that don't know about the Book of Mormon, read this book. In that page, it says, pray about it and see if you don't get a burning in your bosom, I think the way it's written, that this book is true. So I read that first page, he circled that, gave it to me, and I knew that wasn't going to happen. I was not going to pray about that book, but I promised I would read it. I didn't read it right away, but I did start to read. And I'll tell you what I saw in some of the other chapters, but that was how I became interested in and did my own research to see if that book was true, not just listen to what someone else told me. I wanted to know for myself that I was speaking truth about these people who seem to have it all. Now, I don't want to make these too long. I want you to write in the comments or something to let me know that someone is interested in hearing this sort of story, because I want to help someone. I want you to call the missionaries today. If you're hurting, if you don't have anywhere to turn, if you're seeking something that will change your life, make that call to the missionaries and like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.